Hey everyone, I'm sitting down with Rose Duignan. I hope I got that right.
You
Rose, thank
did?
you so much for coming on.
My
There's
pleasure.
a lot of Star Wars to talk about, but you have had a very fascinating life, so I think there's going to be a lot to talk about. If you don't mind starting with just like a brief introduction to let people know the mark you made, and then we can kind of jump around.
Sure, sure. If any of your audience has watched Light and Magic, Part One, directed by Lawrence Kasdan, it was on Disney Plus. They gave me a lot more credit than I deserve on that. I was a production assistant, but nobody would speak to the production manager. Nobody would speak to um, another gentleman that was there who was head of the stages or something. So I became very key to the actual production on Star Wars, the first one, A New Hope. Um, my career launched from there. I really enjoyed. I mean, that was so fun. John Dykstra and his crowd were so much fun. But when I got hired, nothing had been done. And George got back from England. George Lucas got back from England, and nothing had been done. One shot was in the can. All the money was gone. So George had heart palpitations. I mean, he literally went to the emergency room,
Oh,
and he
geez.
wanted to fire John Dykstra, but couldn't, because if he had fired John Dykstra, everybody would have walked, because these were all John Dykstra friends. So I became the go-between. I was hired to just assist John Dykstra and George Lucas, but I became the go-between. They wouldn't speak to each other. So I had to be, well, John, maybe you should move the sync up on this ship by 5 frames. George would say that, and then I would have to say it so that John would do it. So anyhow, if you saw Light and Magic, you'll see that Richard Edlund gave me way too much credit. He was the DP, and he said, "I think it was Rose that turned us around." No, I didn't. I mean, really, your audience should know that I didn't. I was just very ambitious, very focused on the work. And I think that's kind of key, is that you don't let your ego get involved. And I carried that with me. I went to ILM after Empire Strikes Back. I didn't work on that. And I was head of production on Jedi. So I moved up there because this is where I'm
Yeah.
from, the Bay Area. And, I was so fortunate in my career in that I worked with the smartest people on earth and was head of production. And then once I had children, after Jedi, I became director of marketing, and that was a job I could do with kids, because
Mhm.
I could leave at 10 to 6 and pick them up at 6, work 9 to 6,
Right.
and you can't do that in production. And I kind of knew that, and I couldn't do that in operations, so I knew that as well. And so I created a job for myself, which we needed, because at the time there was competition now to ILM. At first, we were it. We were the only company that was doing visual effects, Star
Yeah.
Wars, et cetera. Apogee then spun off. John started his company. John Dykstra started his own company, and they got some great work. And we continued to get work from George's friends up at ILM, but then we had to expand beyond that. So my career really took off, and I was director of marketing for many years. And then I left in, 92. I had had a baby in 1990, and I went to Japan with the group to do space race and pitch it to Mitsubishi. And I just thought, space race sucks. I mean, let me do, it was for a water park. So I did a whole video um, on the life cycle of water,
Mhm.
and I thought that was so much more appropriate. It was a theater, sense it theater, where you would sense everything. It would come in, you'd smell clouds, and you'd smell rain, and you'd feel a little rain. And it was really cool. And I was told the day before I left, the effect supervisors came to the general manager and were not happy that I was not staying in my lane. And they didn't want to compete with me as the marketing director. And I just thought that was and we went to Japan and we pitched Space Race, and the guy was so disappointed. The head of Mitsubishi was so disappointed, and I had to sit on my project. So when I got back, I quit. And but I'm still really good friends with ILM, and I really, as a matter of fact, last night I was invited to the ILM 2. It's Light and Magic 2, Disney Plus. And Joe Johnson is the director of that. And I went to the ranch, Skywalker Ranch, and we saw it and all the people that were interviewed. And I was in it. I'm much more heavily in 2 and 4, episode 2 and episode 4. But I closed this episode with, the closing of 3210 Kerner and 3160 Kerner. It was 17 years ago that George moved everybody to the ranch, and a bunch of companies, Kerner Optical existed for many years. I worked there, and that was fun. We blew shit up. I mean, it was so fun. I mean, there is just so much fun to be had in blowing up real models.
Yeah, the practical effect.
The practical effects. I mean, it was, I worked with the best model shop in the world, and I feel so fortunate to have had that experience. So those were my Star Wars days, but I continued. I throw all the parties. The shirt you're wearing, Return of the Jedi, yep. 40th anniversary. I gave that one. There was like 300 people there. I'm planning another one. I can't wait until 2027, which would be the 50th anniversary of Star Wars release.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to do it on more closely to the start of ILM, the incorporation of ILM. So I'm hoping to do that party and really just invite some bigwigs and some of the original people that worked on Star Wars.
Yeah, that'd be incredible.
Yeah, it will be. It will be. So I don't know when that's going to happen.
If you're getting value or entertainment out of any of my transmissions, it would mean a lot if you would join the Remnant and subscribe. It sounded like Sorry, go ahead.
No, what do you want to know?
I was just going to say, it sounded like when you did the 40th anniversary party that you mentioned, you had a lot of the original people there.
Correct. Return of the Jedi, a lot of people showed up. People are like, how do I get on your guest list? I look at the credit list and I only invite the people, but George reissued Star Wars. So there's a lot of shots in Star Wars, and he destroyed everything that was original from it. Wow. I'm only inviting the original workers from Star Wars. So I'm asking them, because I can't go on IMDb and find the names. So I'm asking them, please give me names and email addresses of people that you recall working with. Because I feel, and we're going to do it at 6842 Val Jean, which is where the actual original ILM facility was.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, totally cool.
Yeah, it's a shame that that part of history is kind of scrubbed, it sounds like.
Yeah, George was not happy. I learned so much last night watching this Light and Magic 2, which airs on Disney Plus mid-April. You should all check it out.
For sure, yeah.
It's just 3 episodes. I didn't even realize, I kind of realized that George pushed the digital production of cameras, editorial, and visual effects. He pushed it in that direction. He was really an innovator. And that's what comes across in this. He just wouldn't take no for an answer. John Knoll, who I'm very proud to say I hired out of USC to come up, and he became the visual effects supervisor on episode 1, 2, and 3. And George finally felt, okay, we're ready to do it. And I didn't know all this stuff about, Jar Jar Binks, everybody hated him, all the critics hated him. But George, in this show last night, said, I don't care. I made it for 10-year-old boys. I made it for 10-year-old kids. And you can find a lot of 10-year-old kids that think Jar Jar Binks is hilarious.
Yeah.
And the guy that played him, this wonderful gentleman named Ahmed, who played him, and it was all motion capture. That guy was so affected by the negative criticism that he got. And George was like, all my actors get criticized. Don't worry about it. In 20 years, this won't matter. But the guy was really affected, and he was such a great guy. I don't want to be a spoiler for the show, but
For
you
the
guys
ILM
should
show,
all
yeah.
watch it. And
Yeah,
I love George wanted to make Star Wars, and I read this somewhere. It wasn't just from last night. He wanted to make the whole series because he felt that young people, 10-year-olds, needed something larger than themselves to believe in. I mean, the Force. I believe in the Force. I know trees talk to each other. I think that's really spectacular that he got in that car crash when he was 16, and he just came out of it unscathed and said, "I've been saved for a reason," and I think that's the reason.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that being the modern mythology, every major civilization throughout history had their own morality kind of tales to tailor to them. And I think him being the modern version of that says so much. And that's why the series has lasted as long as it has.
It is so bizarre, Adam. I get so much mileage out of having worked on Star Wars and Return of the Jedi and Indiana Jones and that whole series and Pirates of the Caribbean and Transformers, and I get so much mileage out of that. And people are truly affected their entire lives. I mean, I am hearing from you.
Yeah.
Just the fact that we're doing this podcast. I mean,
Right.
it has really affected people, and especially if you saw it as a kid. And obviously, you're probably still a kid, right? I mean, what age are you, Adam?
40.
40. So you weren't even born when.
Yeah, I think I first saw it when I was 8 or 9, and it just from then on it hooked me. So
I know I went to my granddaughter's pre-K kindergarten class, and all the kids, I said, "Well, who's seen Star Wars?" No one raised their hand. Well, who's been to Disneyland? Everyone raised their hand because Disneyland has really apparently created an amazing Star Wars land.
Oh, you
And
haven't made
that's
it
how the
there?
young kids are getting it. But all the principals, all the teachers came in because I brought stormtroopers with me. Okay.
Oh, there you go. You need that photo op.
The photo op. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's very cool. I almost felt guilty even. I don't know if your books are publicly available. I don't know if you're selling
You
them
know,
or.
the Who's Patty book is not, because I didn't really want my ex-husband to see that.
Okay.
And I'm publishing all the books that I've ever written. Okay, Bikini Bonini, Who's Patty, and the diary from the Army.
Yeah.
I published them all not because I wanted people to read them. It's really for my grandchildren and their children. And
Right.
oddly, my granddaughter, who's 11, said, Gaga, they call me Gaga, because I was teaching her how to say grandma, Gaga, grandma, Gaga, grandma. And she got stuck on Gaga. I love that name. So she said, I want my children to know you, Gaga. And I said, well, don't worry. I've written this book. I'll pass it on to you, but you have to be 16 to read it.
That makes sense. Yeah, you're very honest in it.
I am very honest. Yeah. In all my books.
But yeah, what I was kind of getting at there was I reached out to you because you worked for ILM, and I was just in that mode like, okay, you were influential in this thing that I love, that all the people who are going to watch this love. And then I read your whole story and I was like, I hope you didn't think I was like pigeonholing you, because it was a big part of your life, of course, but there's so much more to you, obviously.
Well, you're very sweet to say that. And I'm really appreciative that you read the books. I have had an interesting life.
Very.
But I think, I'm quite concerned now about young people entering the industry because it has changed so much. I mean, let's just look. Since COVID 5 years ago, all 10 theaters that showed film in Berkeley, all are gone. There
Wow.
are no theaters. It's all about streaming. And only 2 streamers have made money, Amazon and
Netflix.
Netflix. Thank you.
They were the first.
Yeah, they have made money. And so everyone else is cutting back. And that's why it has hurt the industry so much.
Yeah.
So I do have advice for young people, and that is learn AI, learn machine learning, Be fearless. That's what was captured in, I thought, the first, and was really something I relate to. It was captured in the first Light and Magic, the fearlessness of John Dykstra and his troupe in we didn't know how we were going to do anything. And John Knoll on episode 1, 2, and 3, he didn't know how he was going to accomplish this. And every director wants something that's never been seen before. And but computer graphics added thousands of jobs to the industry.
Right.
And instead, George Lucas recreated it. He had to build his own effects studio. There were none at the studio levels that he could have just gone and hired, So it was John Dykstra pulling together his friends to do this. And we were the Rebel Alliance, which is what John was quoted as saying in an Academy presentation that I put on, where I compared the all digital Rogue One with the all analog Star Wars. It was a great show. And he said, do you think this is too much? If I call ourselves the Rebel Alliance? I said, no, it's fantastic. It's just
definitely what fans want to hear.
and I think that spirit has continued at ILM to this day. And now, it's true. Pixar laid off 30%. Technicolor closed down. The Mill closed down. MPC closed down. That put thousands of people out of work. But I think there is a future in visual effects, and that they laid off all the $200,000 plus people.
Yeah.
And they're going to hire 2 young people to fulfill that. Young people who are unafraid of AI and machine learning. I mean, let's face it, people. For 20 years, we've been leaning on machine learning.
Yeah, for sure.
All of
we just have a name.
So much stuff. And now it's getting all this press and people are freaking out. And yes, it's going to have a huge impact, but I believe it's going to free people up to be more creative. And maybe it will take over some jobs. There's no such thing as rotoscope anymore, which was the foot in the door for many young people.
Yeah.
But that's why I'm encouraging young people. Raise their hand. Say, yes, me, I'm available. If you get the job as a PA, don't turn it down. Be the PA. You'll learn. Also, volunteer on other people's movies, like the college films, the graduate student films. Volunteer because you'll learn, I like to be the script supervisor, or I like to be the camera guy, or I like to do this. And I just really feel like, be ambitious. I mean, I was so ambitious when I was, when you're young, when you have no kids. Sorry.
Right.
Before children, we were all, and someone was saying this last night at the screening, we just stayed, those were our friends. We just stayed there 7 days a week because where else were we going to go? And we partied together, and it was so much fun. And when I had kids, I started a daycare center, which is actually my greatest accomplishment at ILM, is starting the daycare center. And I have to give credit to Doug Norby, who was the president at the time. He came from Fairchild. And so he knew that if your children are happy, someone can offer you 25, 30% more money and you're not going anywhere. If your children are in daycare at your company, you're not moving. And you're not moving your children. So the day I went in front of the company, and, I was pregnant, and I had a 4-year-old and a 3-year-old on each hand. And I said, I want to have your babies. Well, nobody fell for it. Nobody signed up but me and my 2 kids, about to be 3. A month later, it was full. It's still full. It's
That's
45
great.
years later, or 40 years later. And I am so proud that, because really a balanced life, I don't understand why, the studios are going to demand 16-hour days.
Yeah.
So that's 2 8-hour days. Hello. Job share. People don't believe in job share. I think that's bullshit. I think that you can do it. And if you have 2 women mothers that have to get home for dinner, you hire one that doesn't have any kids and can do the night shift, and you hire one that can get home by 6. It's just malarkey that we can't do job sharing. And I think young people today, Generation Z, I think they're called, they're not willing to trade their entire lives for their work. I don't know. Do you think that's true, Adam?
Oh
Or is
yeah, I think you're spot on. Yeah. Almost to a fault it seems at times where it's like, well, you do have to do some work.
so true. No, you and I would hope that people who are passionate about film are passionate about film
Mhm.
and will do what's necessary to get the job done, because at the end of a show you're going to work overtime. It's just inevitable.
Right. But
Um
it doesn't have to be miserable.
and you don't have to like burn out.
Yeah.
And I think, I went to business school late in life, and it was right after I got divorced, and I thought, I can do whatever I want to do. And I chose to go to business school. And it was, I was a lot older than everybody else. It was all C-level people, C-level meaning um, uh, chairman of the board, CEO, CFO, COO. And I went to business school and I graduated, and everyone has done so well. I mean, and I went right back to what I was doing, which I went to Kerner Optical and, took that job on where we just blew shit up, and it was so fun. I've had a terrific career. After that, I went to Bump in the Night. No, actually, I did Bump in the Night earlier. Sorry. Yeah, after I left ILM that first time, I went to Bump in the Night. And that was an ABC Saturday morning stop motion show, all young people, 25 stages, so much fun. And did that a few years until ABC canceled us. And then I went down to LA. I mean, I had 3 kids, so I was gone like 2 days, 3 days a week, and would come home and just do LA. Did marketing for Rhythm and Hughes, which, sadly, they won the Academy Award the year that they went bankrupt.
Oh, that sucks.
Because
Yeah.
unfortunately, iteration, you can't charge the client or you won't get the job. If you say,
Mhm.
well, I'll do 3 iterations of this. No. What if you do 20? Well,
Oh,
who pays
yeah.
for that? The company, the effects company. And I just, no, I wouldn't do that. I would say you get 5 iterations and I would budget for 5. And that's not being an egomaniac. That's just protecting your people from being abused. And I think that's what
Yeah.
happened at Rhythm and Hughes is they just abused people. And John Hughes really cared about the people. He used to tell me, I don't care what we make. We could make toasters. I just want people to be happy. He supplied breakfast and lunch, and he made sure everybody got home for dinner. I mean, he was a great boss, and it was a really meaningful company. And they were the first ones to be hit over the head by CG.
It's a shame because it feels like that's still a trend. Like it feels like every 6 months there's an article about a movie that did massive business and people love it and it had great effects. And then the people who made the effects are all out of work.
Yeah, right now it's a very, very tough time, but I still believe that it's going to recover
Hmm.
and that young people are going to find work in this industry because every film is touched by effects now. I
Yeah.
mean, George Lucas did start a trend, and that trend is every film is touched by effects. Even films that you wouldn't think have effects in them are touched by effects. And so, how do they do that? They laid off all these people. They're not going to be able to make their movies. So, they're going to end up hiring back some of those people.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like kind of, it feels like growing pains. It just feels like we should be a little more past it, but I'm an outsider. So
Well, no, you're not. You're in the web industry. I think they're all attached. And I think some of our people are going to go into web design, and some of our people are going to work in spin-off companies like automobile industry
mm,
or, now you simulate everything. I look
yeah.
at the new local news. I mean, you could get a job on that. Not you necessarily, but somebody who knows how to do 3D graphics could get a
Yeah.
job on that.
That's
So
true.
we're
Yeah.
encouraging. Actually, we're encouraging teachers to join the Visual Effects Society and have a unit of their own, like a teachers group unit. And why not everyone knows how to be a teacher,
Hmm.
but we could train them. I mean, I think, it's time to give back. It really is. And that's why I've started this nonprofit called Next Generation Workforce. And what I do is I assign mentors to mentees. And it's been incredibly satisfying. I mean, I spent 2 days calling all my friends, and everybody said yes, except like John Dykstra said, well, I just don't know the latest software. I go, John, it's about your eye. It's not about the latest software. They can learn that in school. So he did to be a mentor. And I asked for very little, 6 hours, 1 hour a month for 6 months, because I want them to focus on helping with the reel and helping with the resume. And if they fall in love with the kid, the student, then maybe they'll make some calls on their behalf, which would be, it's a free program. I mean, I did this in response to the Visual Effects Society rejecting my suggestion that we have a student chapter, because every chapter in all across the world needs student volunteers to run all the activities that they do. And how great for the students to rub elbows with all these great people who have over 5 years experience. We should have a student chapter, but rather than fight, I'm just impatient in my old age. So I just started this nonprofit.
I mean this as a compliment, but from reading your book, it feels like you were always that way.
Yeah, maybe I was. Yeah. I think it was growing up, over in London and then Africa. I think, my confidence is startling, and it annoys a few people like that I live with. But I think I was forced to be a confident person by going to 6 different elementary schools. You can't be a wallflower and go to 6 elementary schools. You have to make yourself heard and known, especially in foreign countries. So I think that's the root of it. But also I'm, what's that called? I did 23andMe. I spit in a jar or a little vial. Oh, it's a type of Cro-Magnon man. It starts with an N.
Neanderthal?
What is it? I'll think of it. Neanderthal. Okay. I am more Neanderthal than your average person. 23andMe. I think it's because I'm Irish. I don't know. But maybe that's what gave me the guts to live my life the way I wanted to. And, did I mention in my book about my film that I made a film about how to have an orgasm?
Yes, and it was actually used as a training program, right?
In college, yeah. It was distributed to every college in America because it's to this day the only serious film on the subject of female orgasm in the Library of Congress. And my dad said, I've written 50 books and I've never made $80,000 on any of them. He was so jealous. But that helped me. And then George Lucas gave me a piece of Star Wars, which was really nice, worth about $100K. Great, yeah. I bought a car, blah, blah, blah. He gave everyone who headed departments, we split a point. And a point was probably worth $1 million, and there were 10 of us, 12 of us. So very generous. I mean,
nice bonus, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. Last night, John Knoll, who, became this great creative director at ILM on episode 1, 2, and 3 and beyond, he's still there. He said that he was quoted last night as saying, I showed George this big model that we built, and he just said, okay, and went on. But I got a call later from someone going, oh, I got to come out and see that model. George was raving about it. And John Knoll's like, I never heard him rave about anything. He's just a really low-key person.
Yeah, it sounds, I talked to Richard Edlund a few weeks ago, and as I'm gaining more information, it sounds like he was kind of hard to read.
Very hard to read. I remember, though, maybe because I was just a young 24-year-old production assistant on Star Wars, George really opened up, and he expressed to me how disappointed he was in the effects, because he said, I can only do so much. I dream about a black box where I could just make the movie myself. And I thought, wow, it's a team sport, people. It is a team sport. But,
Yeah,
you know,
big team.
for an innovator who felt held back by the technology, I can understand his feelings. But it is a team sport, and you got to play nice, everybody. Play nice if you want to move up. People have to like you.
Yeah.
And, you know, they went on and on last night at the Light and Magic show about Rob Coleman being this sweetheart of a human being. He was the head of animation on all Gore Verbinski movies, Pirates of the Caribbean, etc. And he worked on episode 2 and 3, I think. And he was so well liked, and it's because he thanked his people. When George called him to give him a, you know, congratulations on some movie, he would call all his animators into the screening room and share with them that this call was for them. I mean, that goes a long way.
Yeah.
And I think that was my secret as well. I never kept information to myself. I mean, as soon as I heard that the editing room had cut a shot, I would race to the stage and tell the guys shooting that element, don't bother. Don't bother. Let's go. I hated wasting time. Oh my God, that was my thing. And so everyone knew it. And, you know, I was invited into the academy many times. And I've always said, no, don't include me, because I'm always a time and money guy. I'm not a creative producer. So many people at ILM cared about how it looked. People would stay up all night in optical to make sure that it looked good. And I was just like, no, we can't pay you. You know, why are you doing that? The reel's locked. Why are you doing that? I remember one guy, he stayed up all night to finish a reel. And that I really appreciated, because we needed that shot finished to finish a reel so it could go to print.
Yeah.
He was on Jedi, and I don't even remember the guy's name. He was in optical. And I said, come on in my office. I can't pay you for that extra hour, but let's get your mom on the phone. So he calls his mom, put her on speaker. And I went on and on about what a great son she had raised. It meant so much more to him than money. So much more about it. We were all crying, you know, the mother's crying, the son is crying, I'm crying. It was great. And another guy stayed up all night, John Alexander, and he just retired from ILM. I went to his retirement party, and I remember he stayed up all night to finish some shot that we needed. And he had screwed up, so he stayed all night to fix it. And it was a complicated shot. I mean, you know, opticals, they were really hard, Adam. You had to go through the optical printer like 100 times and not make a mistake. So anyway,
Yeah.
I ended up paying for he and his wife to go to a hotel for the weekend, and she got pregnant. And so they named their child like in honor of me.
Oh, wow.
I just met that kid.
That story wasn't in the book. That's a great story.
No, it really wasn't. I should have.
That's really cool. To rewind a little bit, how did you first come to ILM?
Right.
Because you didn't like go to school to do that or anything.
No, but I did make films. I was a film major in college, and that's where I made my orgasm film. And when I went to LA, I went on all kinds of interviews and used my film to get interviews, but it was mostly from dirty old men that wanted to see the film. You know, what? But I ended up getting hired by Stan Dragati, who was a big-time director for Wells Rich Green in New York, but we were in LA. And he was married to Cheryl Tiggs, who's a supermodel. And she came to the office and said, oh my God, we have to get this woman dressed. I mean, this is ridiculous. She has to match the outfit. You know, the outfits have to match the decor. So she took me shopping. She was so beautiful. OMG. She would walk into the office wearing jeans and a sweatshirt and no makeup and be so beautiful. And anyway, she took me out shopping and I worked for a while. But again, ambition. I hired my girlfriends to cover the desk so that I could be on set shooting Peter, what's his name? Famous actor. He's dead now. Peter Sellers. Okay. Peter Sellers commercials for TWA. Franco Harris was in something. I fell totally in love with Franco Harris. I remember calling my husband and saying, wouldn't you be kind of proud that, Franco Harris wants me to fly back to Pittsburgh and give it for children? He's like, no, come home. So I did. So I was ambitious. And finally, the director said, honey, why don't you just come out on the set with us and be a coordinator and give up the secretarial thing? Because you're obviously not cut out to be a secretary. But that was my skill set. I was a really fast typist. And so that's how I broke into the industry, was being a really fast typist. But then as a PA, you had to do everything. And so that I got a call on Star Wars. And that was pretty life-changing. I got a call from Lon Tinney. He was the production manager on a series of movies where I was a PA and doing everything. And he thought of me and called me, and I went in for an interview. And I thought the receptionist was behaving really weirdly. There was a young kid sitting next to me. I assumed he was the driver. And John Dykstra was going to interview me, and George Lucas was going to interview me. And so I got called in. But I thought that the lady answering the phones, receptionist, was weird, because I said, well, gosh, I saw American Graffiti. I really loved it. Is he nice? Is he good to work for? And well, it turns out I'm seated next to George Lucas. Oh. So when I get called into the room, this guy, I think, well, it's cheeky that this young man is following me in. And he asked me 2 questions. He said, can you take shorthand? I said, well, I do a shortened hand. And can you start Monday? So I said, yes. And that was it. That's how I got my foot in the door. It was simply time and place. They needed me. I had proved myself to somebody that had already gotten hired. And
that's really cool.
It began. But I cannot impress upon you the importance of not staying where you are and being ambitious, and always volunteering. Always volunteer. Mm-hmm. Always be the first one in, the last one in. People will notice.
Yeah.
Will want you on their show. And that's how you become a supervisor of the show, or a head of production in my case.
Yeah, it's cool the trajectory it took. Just, can you do shorthand into helping run ILM?
Yes. Although last night it proved to me that I was only there till, I must have left in the early 90s, because I think my baby was 2. And, it still is, a very effective place. They now, like everybody, has overseas campuses. So, Rob Coleman, for example, who was head of animation on the Pirates of the Caribbean series, he is now in Australia, heading up the Australian ILM.
Okay.
And they have a London ILM, and they have an India ILM. I mean, with the tax basis being offered by all these other countries, you simply have to have those offices to compete. So I like it, because it's become a world, float the boat. It's become a world industry. Yeah. And I can't complain about that, but I do complain. I would like to see California improve their tax incentives, which apparently they just did. They now have raised $750 million to give back. But wow. Don't give it to Tom Cruise.
Yeah, he doesn't need it.
He doesn't need it, or the studio doesn't. Disney doesn't need it. Give it to independent film and smaller films and streamers.
Yeah.
And maybe the industry will come back. It's definitely. The production has left California. So I tell young people, get your passport in order, as well as take AI and machine learning.
Yeah.
Get your passport in order, because that's where you're going to make a name for yourself, in London or Australia or New Zealand.
Even Toronto does a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is interesting that Hollywood is still kind of seen as, you want to work in movies, you have to go there, but it's like, well, then you go there and you leave to go somewhere else.
Well, only if you're a worker. If you're a writer or a director or a producer, I think virtual production is going to change the world. Mm-hmm. And you won't need to go to Africa to shoot or India to shoot, but you still will send some of your visual effects there, definitely.
Yeah.
because they're getting really good and they're much cheaper. Um, I don't know. I don't know. The creative leads are still in LA and Hollywood.
Okay.
Yeah. And ILM is still in existence. I mean, when George moved everybody to the Presidio, he knew it wasn't going to cut it in terms of financially. I mean, those are expensive digs. And we were in San Rafael in digs. And we were at ILM in Van Nuys on digs. And, you know, that's where the great work was done. And the last night at Light and Magic Part 2, it ended when we closed those stages. And I gave a party, of course. And there were 400 people at that party, and
Oh, wow.
everybody was there. Everyone who was anybody in visual effects was there to say goodbye to the place. And John Knoll got really emotional in his remarks, and you'll see it because Joe Johnston, the director, included his remarks at the end of the film, and I think that's how it ends. Is the closing of the original ILM. It was very profound. I mean, they're doing nothing with that space now. I don't know what the hell is going on, but
Yeah, that is interesting. Like kind of the end of an era, even though they're still going, it does
the end of an
sound like
era.
it's
It
final.
was the end of practical effects. And when George left for the Presidio, he sold for almost no money. I think 750,000 for millions of dollars worth of cameras, equipment, grip equipment, lighting equipment, everything that was needed. The vehicles, the forklifts, everything for 750 to the new people, which were the old people who ran ILM, who ran the model shop at ILM.
Oh,
They
okay.
took it on.
So was it just kind of like, I'll help you guys get a leg up, I'm not going to rake you over the coals, or is he just not care? And
I think he was really caring about it, and he wanted to see. And for years, guess who was the major contributor? ILM hired these people on Pirates, for example, to build huge ships, 40-foot long ships, huge water, scenes. Transformers, we won a Visual Effects Society award for the best model because the Transformer flew through this office building, and everybody, the little pieces of paper that they had, the little staplers that they had, it was so cute. And we probably got, $1 million. But as revenues dropped from 20 million to 10 million to 5 million to 2 million, I left. I just said, hey, we're done. And then the company went bankrupt. It was so sad. I have one of those stories. Oh, God. I've never told this. Okay. I don't even remember the film, but I was working at Kerner Optical after my MBA. And I was told in an email, we're going chapter 11, blah, 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 it's happening. And I wrote back and said, we have got to tell our client that we just got this. We just got this huge film. We have to tell them because I just feel really like we have to tell them. I hit reply all.
Oh.
We never are supposed to do that. And as soon as I hit it, the phone rings and it's the producer. And he says, this is above my pay grade. You're going to hear from the director of the studio, the head of the studio. So I walk into my boss's office. I said, I would totally fire me right now. I understand. I understand if you totally want to fire me. I get it. I didn't mean to hit reply all with that. And the head of the studio calls and she says, well, now we trust you 100%. If they fire you, we'll pull the movie. If they don't, you just need to tell me every week what I owe and what was done.
Yeah.
So I had to go back to the president's office and just explain, you can't fire me now.
My accident gave me job security.
After that movie, I really did. I needed to.
Yeah.
But we did. We delivered.
Good. Yeah. How do you feel as someone who's been in it? It feels like to people who just watch it for entertainment, there is a return to practical effects that's happening.
Interesting that you say that. John Knoll says that in his remarks last night on Light and Magic 2. Very few. Christopher Nolan, he still shoots with the film camera.
Mm-hmm.
this year's winner of the Academy Award Best Film, they shot with a film camera. But it's 98% digital.
Okay.
Visual that, John Knoll grew up making models and blowing them up. So he's got a place in his heart for it. But what you can do digitally now, there is no more model shop at ILM. I mean, it's like 4 guys instead of 140. So that tells you your story, that it's basically a digital world. But, John Knoll will incorporate, and I hear Phil Tippett just did a series of stop motion things for Mandalorian. So if you're working on a TV budget, and you can hire John Goodman and Phil Tippett to do something, okay, that's great. But those guys are, Phil's like 75. John Goodson is younger, but people are not learning how to do model making anymore.
That
so
makes sense. Yeah,
I don't
it's a
see
dying
it
art.
as an ongoing return. No, I think we're facing a digital age, as we have been for the last 40 years, really.
Yeah. Yeah, that is interesting to get your perspective because you've done it. Because as a viewer, like talking to friends or talking to people online when you watch a movie, like with Skeleton Crew, the latest Star Wars series, there was a big monster crab and it was all done miniatures. And
I bet that was Phil
flipped for
Tippett.
it.
I bet that was him.
It probably was.
Yeah.
But I do know people
that's
flipped.
really thanks to John Knoll and Jon Favreau. J.J. Abrams only shoots film.
Oh, that's interesting.
Very few. But last night I saw, and if you watch Disney Plus Light and Magic 2, you'll see that George years ago invited all the big filmmakers to the ranch and did a summit about digital and how it was going to be the future. He really was a futurist. He really was someone that totally believed that filmmaking did not need to be. I mean, imagine editing on a flatbed and cutting out 4 frames and putting them on come on. That is so painful. Whereas now with digital, Avid, you can just say, cut those, replace those 4 frames.
Right. Yeah. Cut, copy, paste, undo.
Yeah. Copy, paste, undo.
Well, even the effects.
But I like the idea that it's sentimental and that people say it looks better. I don't know. Creatures do not. Creatures do not look better. But
I don't know if better is the right word, but there's a thing where even if you can see it's like Grogu, the Mandalorian, you can see it's a puppet, but it's tactile, and you can also tell the actors are interacting with something, and it's not a tennis ball on a string. So there is something to it, and maybe it's just tricking our brains, or maybe it's just my age growing up late 80s into the 90s. Yeah. That's what we were used to. It's hard to say, but it does have a feel to it.
Yeah, I do think you're right. I mean, I personally don't go to Marvel movies.
Because they're cartoons.
I say that. I just, and episode 1, 2, and 3, I've sworn to myself I'm going to go back and see them again because I was just Jar Jar Binks. Are you fucking kidding me? But now that I know the actor that played him, I really do care about him, and the fact that George made it for young kids. Yeah, I have to go see it because young people tell me all the time, "Oh, I loved episode 1 or 2 or 3." I'm like, really? They like 4, 5, and 6 were so great, and even 7, 8, 9 were good, but 1, 2, 3, and they go on and on. It depends what you saw.
Yeah, first. What is your Star Wars? Yeah.
Yeah, it really does. And I'll go to the airport and see grandfathers and grandsons both wearing Star Wars t-shirts. It just blows my mind. The impact, the longevity that this has had blows my mind. I mean, I get teased all the time because, people say, "Oh my God, you just worked there for like 20 years and you at ILM, and you've been riding that wave for like the next 40.
I mean,
it's true.
Working somewhere for 20 years is not a small thing.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you.
It's also what you did with those 20 years. You didn't just coast. You invented technology that made a franchise.
Yeah, or at least I monitored it. And,
you were among the team. Like you said, it's a team exercise.
Yeah, it's a team effort. It's a team sport. And every day George Lucas played the game because he would come into the screening room and I would tell him, we need X number of CBBs. Those are could be betters. And we need X number of finals, and we need X number of temps, and we need X number of elements approved. He would always ask me during, how many was that? And he would take, like stuff. He said, if somebody's looking in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, we've lost them. So I'm going to accept that, even though there's a shoe or something, there's a mistake that the optical guy admits to, that he doesn't care. He said, no, I'm accepting that as a CBB. And he does not want you to go back and redo it. As a matter of fact, one guy did go back and redo a shot that had been approved. Mm-hmm. George, to make a point, did not cut it in the final movie.
Oh, even though it was technically better?
Even though it was technically perfect.
Wow.
I know. So I had to announce that. Every morning I had to make announcements. And truthfully, I sometimes got scared. I got stage fright or something. And I used as filler newspaper clippings. And, because we were waiting for George to come over from the editing room to the screening room. So I couldn't always time it perfectly. Like I would share notes from the stages at night. Well, that didn't work, or this didn't work, or that light blew out, needs to be replaced. But then I would use as filler. And, they say that people's number one fear is standing up in front of other people. Mm-hmm. They're more afraid of that than they are of heights or snakes or whatever. And I remember calling in a few times to have my assistant stand in for me because I would pretend to be caught in traffic if I didn't have enough, clips from the newspaper. So it's true. It's true. But I also think getting in front of people really got me unafraid of it. Like I can get in front of anyone. Like I did a big, oh my God, it was like 100,000 people at a Star Wars convention. It was during COVID and I got COVID again. Oof. When I went to that. But I'm just not afraid to stand in front of people. And because I know it's not me, it's the verbiage, it's what I'm saying or what I'm talking about that's interesting to people. It's not me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cool. It's fascinating that everything that you've got to do and experience and just, I don't want to keep referencing your book if it's not for sale because other people can't get it, but I just feel like I got like a really good vibe and understanding of who you are. So it's really interesting to now talk to you and hear it all firsthand and know that you were there on the ground with this thing that has influenced so many people. I mean, I'm sitting in a basement that's Star Wars. That's why I sent it to you,
Adam. That's why I sent it to you. I just figured you'll get the whole picture this way. I mean, I did at the end of Star Wars, I couldn't really leave to come up here and work on Empire, even though this is where my family lives. I was married at the time and he's a musician. And so we kind of had to be in LA. So I stayed with Battlestar Galactica and ran that production. But I remember I wanted to give a party and some asshole in model said, oh, we shouldn't give a party because blah, blah, blah. What idiot. I mean, we're behind or something. And a party helps morale.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, yeah, we're behind. So we're going to give everyone a nice, relaxing evening and get back to work.
Exactly, Adam. Exactly. So anyway, he wouldn't let me give a party. And I just thought, I'm leaving. And also one of the bosses had asked me to go out and buy him a desk. And so I bought him a little child's desk. He was a small man. I bought a child's desk.
So you weren't there to make friends.
In my garage because he, of course, got a huge desk. Abe somebody. Anyhow, so I knew I had to leave. And so I was so intrigued by this image of a woman, like in the military, handing her baby off to her mother with one hand and reaching for an M16 with the other. And I thought, wow, how interesting that the military is training women who give birth to be killers. I mean, that's really interesting. So I went to that's the other book you read, Adam. Which
I definitely wanted to ask about this, even though it's not Star Wars, but I found it fascinating.
So it should have been. Okay. So I kept a diary and went undercover through basic training and for the United States Army in Fort Jackson, South Carolina. And I was like 28, 27 maybe at the time, 1990. No, sorry, 1979. And it was the most interesting experience of my life. It was the first unit to train men and women together. And I ended up being offered a commission to stay in the Army because I wanted to prove to the men that some women could keep up. Some women were worthy of being in the Army because there were some women, like if they cried, the drill sergeants would like put them on the bus. I mean, come on, get tough, girl. Anyway, it was such an interesting situation. There were 12 of us women in a platoon that had like 35 men. Mm-hmm. And God, I could tell you stories, and I did, Adam. Yeah. But where was I going with this? Oh, so I go to Universal Studios, which was doing Battlestar Galactica, and I pitch it to the head of production. And I said, you don't have to pay me. Just pay me what I would earn on unemployment, $300 a week or $175 a week or something. And so he says, okay, we'll do that. And I go to DC and pitch it to the Army, this really handsome general. And he's got this woman, a colonel, who's in charge of training or something in her office. And I look really cute. And I have, I have my little short skirt on and my boots and makeup and my hair. And he said, well, could we just send you like a journalist, like you're a journalist and you could go and observe. And I said, no, I have to really go through it. And he turns to the colonel and he says, well, Colonel, what do you think? And she says, frankly, sir, I think she'd be a pain in the ass. and then she brought up death and that I might fall and kill somebody. I'm like, come on, lady.
Seems extreme, yeah.
It's really extreme. And if other people can go through it, then I can go through it. And he voted for me to go through it. So I had to keep it secret. I was not allowed to tell anybody. And I went through basic training and it was pretty amazing. I got so much attention. I got to go to DC at the end and talk to all the training generals. And I made huge changes in the Army. Number one, I said, all your women gained 20 pounds. All your men lost 20 pounds. Obviously, the food is heavy starch and you need a salad bar. They instituted salad bars. Secondly, I said, your rape program? Okay, the first thing they did, they dismissed all the men. Hello? Men are the rapists.
Right, the ones who need to be there, they dismissed.
Yeah, they totally missed. And then we watched a bunch of movies and every movie had the same message. Just go along with it. Yeah.
I remember reading that section in the book and just cringing from like a modern, not even a modern viewpoint. At the time, it's cringeworthy, but from a modern viewpoint, it's like, this can't be real.
That's the thing I said to the generals. These are women soldiers. They're trained to kill. They should be gouging out their eyes. They should be going for the balls. They should be fighting back. I mean, go along with it.
Well, also, like, where's the education on, like, don't do it, so there's nothing to go along with?
Exactly. Go along with it. The message was better to be raped than killed.
Ugh.
If somebody really was going to kill you, okay, I get it. But I think you could dissuade them by getting away.
Yeah.
Anyhow, I remember feeling so powerful. So they got rid of that rape program. They got rid of it totally.
They should revamp it, not get rid of it.
Well, they got rid of that rape program.
Oh, okay. To make a better one.
I didn't go through it. I did not take them up on their offer because I looked at what I could earn if I stayed in the Army. First of all, you have to travel all over. Secondly, you were making like no money.
Yeah.
And in the movie business, I knew I could do better. But my diary that you read, Adam, was optioned by, I can't remember, ABC or NBC or something. I wore my uniform, I did push-ups, they bought it.
So Universal paid you to go, but then passed?
Yeah, they once it was over, ABC bought it like 1980, 1981. And it was going to be I'm sorry, but they turned it into Girls with Big Tits Falling in the Mud. And they wanted to put Marie Osmond in it, playing me.
Yeah.
No. So I called up George Lucas. I said, well, I'm ready to be a worker bee again. You want me? And got hired to run Wrath of Khan,
Okay.
Star Trek. We did
Yeah.
that. And then Jedi after that.
Very
And
cool.
then I got pregnant, and I produced something called the Ewok TV movie. God, that was terrible.
Yeah, there was a couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah, terrible. And but from there, once I was pregnant, I remember George seeing me in the hall and saying, well, I don't expect to see you around here for 5 years. I'm like, yeah, that would be nice, but I have to make a living.
Right.
And but I did cut back my hours, and I did take on the marketing director.
And made
role.
a daycare.
Yeah, and then started the daycare.
Yeah, very cool. Great. Yeah. It's crazy about the Army thing that you went through it all to get the authentic experience, and they just made it sounds like they just made it any other sitcom they could have just thrown together.
Yeah, I think the Army let me do it because they believed that, it was the all volunteer Army at the time. It had just started, and they were getting the dregs of society, in their words. And I saw that. I saw the dregs of society, but I also saw that I cared. They did such a good job of training me. I would have died for those people. I mean, I would have died for some of those people. Some of them, no, they deserve to be in jail. But
right.
Some of them were really hard. I mean, what can I say? I would have died for them. And they really did. They make you feel like you're in jail at first, and then slowly they start freeing you up. But I did start smoking then. I did smoke for a few years, because if you didn't smoke, they would say, if you got them, smoke them. And if you didn't smoke, they would make you do errands. They would make you clean up or something.
Oh, so you'd get a break if you smoked.
You got a breather.
Yeah, it's a weird irony.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating. Well, actually, I read your Army Diary first, which was the wrong way to do it, but it was the smaller book. So I'm like, okay, I'll start here. And in the beginning, you're talking about they don't know what I'm here for, and they don't know who I am. And then people are asking you, like, do you know a general? And I'm like, oh, this is a fascinating way to read it out of order, because I don't know why you're there. So it was like,
wow.
It was almost like you wrote it like a mystery, even though obviously you didn't.
Well, it was just a diary, and I really just recorded, but I did use initials instead of names.
Yeah, that was smart. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't want anyone coming after me. I mean, I would have loved to do a reunion of those people.
Oh, yeah.
I wouldn't know how to find them, and the Army's not going to help me. So, no, it was truly a great experience. I mean, probably the most fascinating of my life.
It was also really interesting.
Even more so than ILM. I mean, ILM was great, but it was before and after ILM that I did the Army thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it really helped me you got so strong in the Army. Like, why didn't I pass out? It was the coldest winter ever in South Carolina. And I just willed myself. You learn how much power you have when you go through something that's really hard and really cold and really, brutal. And
kind of see what you're made out of for real.
Yeah, it made my time at ILM, I think, more profound. It was like nothing compared to the Army.
Yeah, it was fascinating. And not only did you go and get through it, but you excelled in it.
Yeah, I was very. I won the physical fitness award out of my whole company.
And you were trainee of the week or month or whatever it was.
Trainee of the cycle. No, I said
yeah.
I was offered training of the cycle. I said, no, don't give it to me. Don't waste it on me.
Okay.
Because at that point, it could have meant something for someone's career.
Right. Someone who's staying in, yeah.
Yeah, but I also changed the kitchen police activity. Weren't they awful?
Yeah, it seemed like it was unnecessarily cruel for no reason.
Yeah, so cruel. And unfortunately, when I won Trainee of the Cycle that week, and I was going through the line to get food, and someone said, "Oh, congratulations for winning Trainee of the Week." And the KP staff looked at me with such hate in their eyes because I had complained to the colonel about them. Because really, why on earth would they be mean to us when we're cleaning the grill and cleaning oil?
Yeah, you're making their lives easier. It's like, and you're also all in it together.
Why act like you're some sort of drill sergeant?
Yeah.
You're one of us, Anyhow.
Yeah, I guess that's just military life. Is someone's always going to have an attitude, and
yeah. And you read Who's Patty?
Yes.
So my name is Patricia Rose, and I was called Patty, which I hated. So I changed when I went to college. I went to by my middle name, Rose.
Okay.
And that's how everyone knows me in the effects business. But I went to a brand new high school in my senior year in DC because my dad got a job and I was being, what's that called?
Yeah, I remember.
What is it called when you're stalked?
Stalked, yeah.
Stalked by
a real creepy guy.
A real creepy guy.
Yeah.
Who threatened to kill me, blah, blah, blah. So my dad took this job and we left town. I mean, 4 of my siblings, one stayed because she was at Stanford and, or got into Stanford. So I spent my senior year abroad, in DC.
Yeah.
And
the stalker never switches attention to her, if I remember right.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, Who's Patty? I headed the anti-pollution club. I started this we built a float for the Cherry Blossom Parade, which we were kicked out of. And it was a three-part float with biblical, somebody else designed it, but we built it. And we got more attention and more news than the whole Cherry Blossom Parade. But anyway, at the time, so they did a Patty Appreciation Day because I had done a cleanup of the highways, blah, blah, blah. So someone had written on the Patty Appreciation Day poster, "Who's Patty?" Because I was brand new at the school. And I just thought that was so funny. I wish I still had that poster. I'm so sorry that I'm not sentimental. I didn't save it. God damn it. I should have saved it. But I used that as the title of my book, my memoir, because I just think it's hilarious. Who's Patty?
Yeah, it was interesting. You went to a new school and instead of clamming up, you just made so many impacts on it that...
Yeah,
you had to be known.
Did I also write about the fact that it wasn't me, but we did this let's clean up the bathroom kind of thing. And the young woman that I was with went in with me and we went to the principal's office and we said, yeah, we want $50 or whatever to clean up the bathrooms. Can we buy supplies? And he said, what's the point? Teachers will just bring cockroaches back from home.
Oh, yeah, that was in there. Yeah.
I was so shocked. Being from Stanford, I'd never even heard anyone use that word.
Right. Yeah.
And so she happened to be the daughter of the chief of staff of the White House. So she tells her dad, and we had every camera of every news place the next day at school. And the principal had to quit. And 4 teachers had to quit.
Wow.
Because the whole audience, we were all called into the multipurpose room or something. Mm-hmm. And these black kids got up, African-American kids, and said, yeah, that teacher told me that there's no way I was going to go to college. And all these kids complained. And so 4 teachers and the principal were gone that day.
Wow.
Now, I don't take credit for that, but I was a part of it because what was I going to tell my parents? Who are they going to call? So, but this girl really created some difference in that school. And they checked my locker every day because I was from California. They checked my locker.
Figured you had weed with you every day. And you're the one trying to clean up the bathroom.
Yeah, exactly. Come on.
Yeah, there was so many little things like that were just like, of course you did ILM. Of course you did these things later in life, because even your like formative years you were getting things done and accomplishing things and making changes. And the Jimi
Yeah.
Hendrix
Yeah.
story was wild.
I think fearless is a great word for it.
Yeah.
And that was the word that Lawrence Kasdan used to describe what he discovered at ILM in the 6 hours. That fearlessness. And that's what I want to see in young people is a fearlessness, fearless of AI, fearless of machine learning, fearless of working the set, fearless of volunteering.
Hmm.
You know, I just think that young people will make it if they are fearless.
Get out there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's very good point. Yeah. Really
Yeah.
interesting. Well,
Well, I don't know. What else can we say? Let me look at my notes.
I actually took some notes on your book, but I think we covered it all.
Oh yeah. That's right. That's right. I say to my to students, if any students are listening, take efficiency courses, AI, machine learning. They're here to stay. Um, use them as tools.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing that differentiates because a lot of people, I mean, even me, I'm in web design, which I'm not a programmer. I do more the look of it.
Yeah.
AI is going to replace that job. So what I have to do is learn to run the AI to do that job to stay relevant. It's a tool. It's not an omnipotent being that's going to replace you instantly.
Correct. Absolutely correct. I still think it takes human to human touch. Like your bosses who are going to approve that website, they're not just going to approve an AI version. You know, if you present it as the best, then that has so much more weight.
Yeah.
And if some AI program just appeared on their desk.
Right. You also have to feed information into any
Correct.
kind of AI source to get something out of it.
Correct.
Yeah. So that is the thing people need to realize that it is a tool.
Yep. And I just would say to young people, don't take your foot off the gas. Like always be doing something, always be busy. I am so bored though in my retirement. I'm actually moving. I live in a home with 4 women. I think it's a trend because, oh my God, it's so much cheaper. It's you split the PG&E bill by
Yeah.
4, you split the food bill by 4, you take turns cooking. There's never a dirty dish in the sink. But I'm bored because I'm so used to, I mean, you read my books. I'm just used
Yeah.
to being kind of a doer. And here, a couple of the women work and one is gone all the time. She's a jewelry maker and she does shows. And I'm just so bored. I went into golf, the golf industry I'm 73. I'm turning 73 in a month. And so I'm moving to an over 55 community near my grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
And I live on a golf course and there's
There you go.
220 clubs. I'm going to join the hiking club, the movie club. There's 2 movies free a day. There's a gym. There's 4 pools. So between getting in shape or being in shape, staying in shape, and hiking and playing golf and being in all these clubs, I'm hopeful I won't be bored.
Yeah, I feel like people are only bored if they want to be bored because there's so many opportunities to do anything you want.
I know. I have to ask myself that. Maybe I should go to therapy, figure out, really, I want to figure out why am I bored? I mean, that's why I wrote all those books. It was during COVID that I wrote the 2
That makes
you read
sense because
and one you
what else could
haven't,
you do? Yeah.
the Kenny Bonini Goes to Africa book. And that was good because it kept me busy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, I took courses at UC Berkeley. Uh, I volunteer a lot. I do Meals on Wheels. I volunteer in the schools. I work at the golf course. I'm an ambassador. I give free golf balls away. I don't know. It's just not enough, Adam.
Yeah. Well, reading your life story, you were always doing 10 different things at the same time.
And identities. You're a mother. You're a worker. You're really under a lot of pressure for budgets and schedule. It just felt like my identity was gone. It's over. I'm a grandmother, but that doesn't require too much. Um, I don't know. That's why I say I haven't finished writing. I think the Who's Patty book ends really poorly with one of the parties that I gave. It's like, no, it's not over yet. Please tell me it's not over yet.
Yeah, well, you do. Your last line is something like "the end for now" or "goodbye for now" or something like that.
Yeah,
So yeah, there is more to say.
there is more to say. Yeah, I'll have to
And
have
it
a
sounds like
second.
the place you're moving, you'll be busier than you want to be.
I know. And I feel like I need, as great as these women are, I feel like I need the male energy. I mean, personally, I think the world should be run by beta males and women, not by alpha males as we currently have. But I kind of miss any male, interaction or any male. Like I've worked so much with men, right? At
Right.
Star Wars, and oddly, it hasn't changed. There are still there's women producers.
Hmm.
There are very few, 2% of the positions of lead, blah blah blah, lead anything, lead animator, lead whatever are women, and it hasn't changed in 20 years.
Which is
Hasn't changed
strange
in
because it
40 years.
seems like it's the
That's
time.
really sad, and I
Yeah.
think it's partly the hours
Mm.
that men are allowed to spend more hours, but you want to, if you're a mom, you want to get home and tuck in your kids. So did the dads. I mean,
Yeah.
so did the dads. The dads are so required. And unfortunately, visual effects has not allowed that to date. Maybe it'll change. I hope that the next generation workforce does make changes in that regard, because it can't just be a young person's game. I mean, maybe the young people are the fearless ones. The young people stay together. The young people tackle impossible, demands. And so you need some young people, but you need the wise older people to guide them. And those people can't work 16-hour days.
No, but that's kind of what you started talking about right in the beginning of our conversation is do the split job where you have it's your mentor mentee thing. Also, the mentor can start and then the mentee comes in and they have a few hours overlap to pass the torch. Then they can go home and
That would be great. That's how I envision it. That's how I envision it. Hasn't happened yet. And everyone's really afraid of that. And
yeah.
all the heads of studios and the heads of visual effects companies are afraid of it. But I don't think they're going to have a big choice. I think they're going to be forced by the
Yeah,
next generation.
I also feel like the technology is there for a better work-life balance.
I like that. I like that. Efficiency is what it's
Yeah.
all about. I mean, I can't tell you how often in last night's presentation of number 2, the crew was like, we can't believe it got done.
Yeah.
They were so afraid that it wouldn't get done. I didn't even see that one with all the snake-like things from Davy Jones or something.
Oh yeah, he was like part squid. Yeah.
Yeah, squid-like. That really caused a lot of problems, apparently.
Those movies, I actually just rewatched all those maybe 6 weeks ago or something, and they really
Wow.
hold up. Like the
Excellent. I'll
work that
have
went
to
into it
check
with
them
like the
out.
CG water and stuff, it looks incredible.
Well, I'm totally committed now to watch again episode 1, 2, and 3 and see because those were pushing the digital work forward.
Yeah.
And John Knoll would say, I didn't know how we were going to do that. That was definitely beyond us. And he would just go, woo.
Yeah, it's
After leaving
definitely worth a
meeting with Corey.
revisit. I mean, Jar Jar's going to be tough for an adult to swallow, but
Right. You don't say no to George.
Right. That's an interesting thing too, because the Star Wars that you worked on, you had the Stormtroopers as your kind of disposable big bad guy. Then there's the Clone Troopers, and there was never a single, well, for the 1, 2, and 3, there was never a single physical armor set made. 100% animated, and even now it's crazy to wrap your head around.
He insisted on that, and John Knoll fought him on that. And George put his foot down and said, we are not using costumes. And but stormtroopers worldwide, the 501st,
Yeah.
unbelievable. They've done so much charity work, and the
Hmm.
reason Lucasfilm and now Disney allows them to keep meeting, it said they come to all my parties. I mean,
Oh, that's
in
cool.
costume,
Yeah.
everybody wants photos with them. I
Oh, for
can't
sure.
tell you. I mean, you could be, John Dykstra and want your photo with them. Um, anyway, they are amazing, and they raise so much money for charity because the deal is if you hire a couple to show up, you have to pay $50 per man to the favorite charity of your choice. So I've always done that, and I'm proud to do it.
Yeah, the quality they do is also, it'd be crazy for the corporation to shut them down because it's just a love letter to what they're doing. And the attention to detail and the quality is they have very rigid standards.
They do. You have to, have a real costume that matches a certain, whatever. You can be like a biker or a stormtrooper or
Hmm.
something else, but you have to match. And then they have Darth Vader's and they have Boba Fett's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They do
it's
great
very
work.
cool.
They do
Yeah.
great work worldwide. They just had some sort of conference in Japan.
Oh, wow.
I mean, wow.
That's where the next big Star Wars celebration is.
Yeah,
Do you ever do anything like that?
I think I'll stick to doing my Star Wars celebration, the first one, number 4, at Van Nuys with the original crew and some.
Yeah, that's different.
Yeah, and
You
George
ever?
won't come. He won't come. He was
No.
disappointed in that film. Very
It's.
disappointed. But
I mean,
that's
he's the creator. He's entitled to his opinion. It just seems crazy to be disappointed at when there's millions of people worldwide 50 years later who are still raving about it.
I know. I know. It really hurt a lot of our feelings because we were working with the best technology we could at
Well,
the
you
time,
invented the
as
technology.
as we could at the time. And once he started replacing shots, he replaced a lot.
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah,
well.
there's constantly fans online looking for, I want the original theatrical cut. I don't want all the extra stuff.
I know. And part of it is the color has faded. Everything's green, or the mats are no good anymore.
Hmm.
So a lot of them were destroyed by
Just time.
theaters. Yeah.
Just by running light through it. And
But the Academy still has one, and George Lucas still has one. That's a secret.
if that ever got put onto like a high res disc and sold, it would sell out. No matter how many they print, they would sell out.
Exactly. I agree with you, Adam. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the plan. I don't know. The George Lucas Museum, we'll have to go see that, though, in LA. You going to come?
Oh, when is that opening?
I think it opens in April.
Oh, I'm going to have to.
Yeah, you're going to have to, because it's a storytelling museum, and he paid for the whole thing.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to come out there then.
Yeah, me too.
Well, it's not too far for you, right? You're a few hours?
No, I'm like 6 hours away.
Oh, okay.
I'm in the Bay Area. I'm in Berkeley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, I want to see that. The Academy Museum, We did a huge party to celebrate Bob Abel in February at the Samuel Goldwyn Theater, which is where we used to do the Bake Off. Which the Bake Off was really great. The Bake Off was 2,000 people getting together, 1,000 of them being Academy members who were voting on the top films for visual effects award. And I used to dress up because for me it was the Academy Awards, right? It was as close as I got. And so I would always dress up, and I got a bunch of women to dress up one year. But I would always just go stand in the line for Academy members, and I'd see if somebody would, let me sit next to them. And I always asked the question, who are you going to bring to the Academy Awards? Until everyone said their mother, until I was told, no, you can't ask that question because it's influencing the voting.
Really? That's strange.
Because if I said, who are you going to bring to the Academy Awards, that meant you're going to get nominated.
Oh.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, we haven't done that in years. Now it's just like you get everything at home and you watch it at home, and you needed to be together. That's part of it. We have a community. And
Yeah.
when Ted Mankey died, uh, he was the head of stage at ILM, and I remember calling George Lucas. He was the oldest employee of George Lucas. He worked on THX
Oh,
1138
wow. Okay.
and on American Graffiti, etc. And then he ended up running the studio, running the stage department at the studio. He was a great guy. And I remember calling up George, and George was going to be out of the country. He couldn't come to his memorial, but he paid for everything.
Wow.
He paid for the room, he paid for the food, he paid for the security, he paid for the parking. I mean, super nice.
Yeah.
And I'll always remember him for that. He's very generous that way. And and he doesn't come to my parties, but that's okay because he just doesn't want to be confronted by everybody. He's a shy person.
You're right.
He doesn't want to come, and I get that. So I always invite him, and then a week before I invite his wife, Marcia, his ex-wife, Marcia Lucas, because everyone loves her.
Yeah, I've been told that she was the heart of the whole thing.
Yeah, that's interesting. She came to the Star Wars celebration of 40th anniversary, and everyone loved her. She just, she talked on the stage, and everybody was quiet as a pin, listening to her. And it was so much love in the room for that one, Star Wars.
Yeah.
And George sent a cake, but he sent a message, but he couldn't be there. He said he was at Con at some Star Wars celebration. But then we did one for Empire, and then we did one for Return of the Jedi, which you're wearing the shirt.
Yep.
And then we did one for the closure of where all those movies were made. And luckily,
that should be the museum.
Yeah, that made it to Light and Magic, and you'll see it when you see it in mid-April. Do you have a Disney Plus?
Yeah, I watched the first Industrial Light and Magic series, but it was before I was doing the Star Wars YouTube channel. Obviously, before I talked to you, before I talked to Richard Edlund. So now I want to rewatch it with more educated eyes.
Yeah. It's great. You'll really get the captured feeling that Lawrence and that Joe picked up on, the fearlessness, and also this second version, take two.
Yeah, I'll definitely be watching it when it comes out. I didn't even know they were making it.
It's so amazing to me. I mean, I remember George being so key in developing digital technology.
Yeah.
But this really paints a clear picture of just how influential he was and how he pushed every camera company to do it, to create digital cameras.
I'm excited to get into that because there's so much as a fan who lives in the fan world of it. There's so much stuff that oh, well, George Lucas said this, or his intention was this, or John Dykstra was like this. And it's well, that you could just be saying that to try to prove your point or to reinforce your own opinion. I want to hear it from the people.
Yeah. No, you'll learn a lot watching this second series of Light and Magic. The first one was a little bit fanboyish, but this one isn't. This one's just reality.
That's cool. I'm okay with the fanboyish. I mean, obviously, but
Joe did a great job. Joe Johnston. I mean, I worked with him for a long time. He was the storyboard artist on Star Wars.
Oh, that's cool.
George put him through USC to become a director after Jedi.
Wow.
And Joe went on to do Rocketeer and Jumanji and many other movies. Rocketeer is the only film that I recall working on where ILM didn't get it right. Is you're consecutively blowing up the dirigible. There's a certain way that it was supposed to blow up. It didn't do it correctly. It just so we had to rebuild it in a week and reblow it up and shoot it quickly.
I guess that's one of the drawbacks to the practical effect.
Yeah, that's
you blow it up, you can't do it again.
You could just iterate in the other. Yeah. So true.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. It's really nice that, you're involved in that you're throwing the parties for everybody. But also, like, when now Disney is doing something to talk about the old days, you're still included in that as well.
Yeah, that was nice. Although we were promoting Light and Magic, which is why I was included. Um, I don't know. Things have gotten kind of weird with Disney owning ILM.
On the fan side, too, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like it was like a family owned shop.
Right.
It's a corporate entity.
Yeah.
Um, but they're still my friends. They're still part of our community. They still show up at my parties, so
Right, yeah. And
that's the main
something
thing.
on the fan side people need to remember is everyone wants to make the best thing they can. So, corporation or not, the people working on it care and they're doing what they can.
So true. So true. And there's such a genuine commitment to quality at ILM.
Yeah.
It's really remarkable. And I remember my boss, Warren Franklin, he was general manager for a while at ILM. He went to some Stanford business school program, and he said that he complained that everyone that he worked with wanted it to be better and everybody cares so much. And the other CEOs were like, that's what we want at our company.
Yeah.
To be complaining.
Yeah.
But there has to be a balance. I mean, you have to make it a business, and I think
there's only so much money, time, resources.
Yeah, that's it. You can't just do anything you want, and that's where George wore both hats, producer, director. He wasn't just in there as director saying, "Oh, make it as good as you can." He was like, "Make it as good as you can within the budget."
Yeah,
and in a way, that forces creativity.
Yeah, that is another cool thing that I kind of got the feeling from reading about or learning about ILM, and obviously you could speak to it better. But you were inventing things, and there wasn't the technology, and you had to do hundreds of shots with no time or budget at all. So you had to figure it out, and yeah, like you said, it forced everyone to be creative.
It does. It forces creativity, and that is stated in part 2 of Light and Magic. But I think it came across in part 1 as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
We were just flying by the seat of our pants. We had to get certain shots done as quickly as we could. I mean, we literally delivered 365 shots in 6 months.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. We were shooting The Crawl like a week before the movie came out.
Yeah, it's so fascinating that it came together, because it seems like you could tell the same story and then the movie didn't work. Everything being the same, and it just didn't work because you were too up against it.
Yeah.
But the fact that it did work is just incredible.
I think I'll tell one more story
Sure.
before we close. And that is that when I was working on Star Wars and George was in the office, I think he was bored because he used to help me stamp storyboards or whatever. And one day he's writing the opening crawl on a
Oh, yes, I wanted to ask you about this.
he was writing on a yellow pad. And he says, "How's this? A long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away." And I said, "Well, I don't like the long, long, far, far. A long, long time ago in a galaxy far away." Well, try flipping it. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Bingo! Well, he doesn't remember that.
Yeah, when I read that, I put it in my notes and I totally blanked on it. But I'm like, I have to ask. If nothing else, I have to ask about that. That's incredible.
Yeah, no, it was fun. So I love that I helped write the opening line.
And it's been in all of it.
It keeps showing up.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
And I don't know if you keep up with the story, but they brought it into the universe at a point.
What?
In the Ahsoka series, the main character's hanging out with an ancient droid who's been around for tens of thousands of years, and he's telling fables from inside the universe that start with that.
Oh my God, that's so great.
Yeah, it was a really cool, like, full circle kind of nod to the audience.
Oh, that's so great. Yeah.
Yeah.
A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
Yep.
I don't know.
It's very cool.
I don't know what magic he has, but he created something that has really lasted.
Yeah.
For, God, almost 50 years.
50 years. And
Unbelievable. How many other films can you say that about?
I mean, there's some classics people still talk about, but not to the same degree and not with the same like fervor and dedication. And then you bring in like the merchandise and the continuations and the series and the sequels and the books. It's tens of thousands of people involved in creating this one man's vision.
So smart. So smart that he created the merchandise and got the merchant first time ever that the merchandising license was given to the filmmaker.
Yeah.
And nobody cared. I mean, 20th Century Fox could care less. They're like, sure, take it.
Right. Yeah. Something else that he pushed for, something else he innovated. Very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a Netflix series, The Toys That Made Us. I don't know if you ever watched it, but they did a whole one on the Kenner Star Wars figures and how it was like revolutionary.
Wow. Yep. Nope. It was great times. It was great times. I feel very lucky to have been a part of it.
Yeah, it's very, very cool. And I mean, you had a fascinating life outside of that. So to be part of that as well is just like icing on the cake.
But I think this is my most, the most insightful or the most impactful was, I failed so often. I wanted to do history of the earth, where you just go on one spot and see 4 billion years worth of, I'm very creative.
Yeah.
But you know what? That's not what put me on the map. What put me on the map was the efficiency, the time and money. But I'm grateful. I'm so grateful. I have so many friends and so many people are nice to me, who I worked with, that I'm incredibly grateful that, that we have a community and that they show up at my parties. And if I hit them up for money, or if I hit them up to be a mentor, they'll say yes. So nice.
Yeah, that's excellent. I can't thank you enough for taking the time. I mean, sending the books was awesome. I'm glad that we pushed it because initially I was like, we should just talk, but I'm so glad that we pushed it so I could read and get to know you. And then for you to come on and be the person in the pages, it's amazing.
Well, Adam, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
I hope that this satisfies your fans and all the best to everybody.
Yes, you as well. Thank you very much and good luck with your next endeavor.
All right. Thank you so much, Adam. Take care.
Thank you.
Stay in touch.